The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Fridays here. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by ourselves. Hope everyone's doing all right. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Hey, I caught myself. Back off of me.
Good editing. Nice.
We are presenting ourselves.
I said that like 5 minutes ago, too.
489-1240. 489-1240. Vic, I need some tequila. Vic has chimed in already. Crew is saying, happy Friday, you handsome gentlemen. I was asking Connor and Elijah if I can pull off the purple.
I'd say you did.
Yeah. I don't own anything purple ever. This was on sale. I'm a cheap bastard. It is what it is, and I may burn it later. So, hey, it's all good. It's Nebraska. It's Northern Illinois.
I don't think that's burn-worthy. Like Nebraska's offensive performance through 2 games, burn-worthy. That shirt
is no.
It's not burn-worthy.
Hey, it's all good. We're excited to be with you out at the Single Barrel tomorrow, 3 to 5 for the weekend edition pregame. And want to see you out there if you're bumping around downtown. So numbers to get in, 489-1240. You can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Alive and well in the stream. Jump on in. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. To my left, one Elijah Herbel. Straight ahead is one Connor Clark. His picture has been taken down at the post office. It said missing underneath it. Good to see you again. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing great. It's good to be. It feels like a month, right?
Yeah, you had a ball game. You were in Boulder. You had 7 handfuls of brownies. You got lost. We didn't find you.
I walked all the way back. I'm just kidding.
Speaking of walking, Elijah's like, this man needs oxygen.
Hey,
you're carrying me.
I don't blame you.
I was Bubba and you were Forrest.
I warned you last week. The altitude's no joke. And it wasn't a joke last week. I tell you what, it was taking a toll out of me. But Connor, I'm just glad to see you still alive and kicking. I saw some of your social media posts. You were really, you had some Husker fans around you, but I saw from where your seats
you were
were
in enemy territory.
Fans.
Oh, I was basking in the glory of getting yelled at throughout the campus of Boulder. It was.
Did you show up with face paint and a red jersey or what?
I didn't. No face paint was necessary. I just showed up with a red hat, red shirt. That's all it took. And from the time it went from the big noon set to where our tailgate was, there were many things to be said.
You had a tailgate set up.
Yes, because I got a couple of friends who live in Denver, so their parents had a whole little thing set up. So
the parents didn't spend the second half swearing at you, did they?
No, they did not. They did not. We protected them actually from the CU.
Can I ask a question? You guys have been through some college football road trips. I'm going to open it up to the folks listening as well. But is there I know it's Northern Illinois week, but is there a worse experience than Boulder from a fan standpoint? And I ask this because you've seen a week of items roll out in reels or social media or word of mouth or, hey, how was the trip or the game sucked. You go down the list there, and it's one thing for the team to get kind of blown out and have a tough second half. It's quite another to just catch hell. And I'll say this, and this isn't junior high Schmidt coming out who really hated Colorado as a kid growing up in Nebraska, being a Nebraska fan. This is just an observation that there's a fan base, and you know them. You know a fan base as a rival to maybe your favorite team, but there isn't a bigger group of classless front-running fan base or fans. Colorado's in their own category and own tier. They act like they've been on top of the college football world for decades. It's the old Switzer take. You thought you hit a triple, but you really kind of woke up on third. And that is Buff fandom. And I hope Jay Norvell hangs half 100 on Colorado. And if they don't, I hope Oregon hangs 200. And then I hope Oregon, while pushing the Buffs out, hands off the baton for another beating by USC. It's not anti-prime. It's not Shadur. It's not the kids. It's the fan base you can just want to spit venom at.
Yeah, and from what I saw out there last weekend, very drunk, generally.
Which dude, I mean,
that's how
there's
fans
hammered
are.
Nebraska fans, there's hammered KU fans, there's hammered fans in general. What type of drunk fan are you?
And I've been to Wisconsin. I've been to Iowa.
They're
two fan bases that are known for their drinking. And I thought Colorado was on another level. Maybe it's just because, hey, I've had to watch the Broncos too over the past couple of years, guys. I get it. You want to latch onto something that's a winning team. I get it. I don't want to live in the past too much here. Colorado fans were lively. They had some drinks in them. I don't think I would call it an overly negative experience. But that being said, I was in my KFOR quarter zip, as Vic chimes in the StreamYard making fun of my sense of fashion. I was wearing my KFOR quarter zip, so maybe people didn't recognize me as being from Lincoln, Nebraska, so they were nicer to me. I overall didn't have an awful experience in Boulder. I'll say that.
No, I had a great experience, but just bumping into folks and your story, Connor, with just the treatment.
I mean,
Roulade 757 says fan is a loose term there, Schmitty, and that's just it. Everyone's piling on as longtime Colorado fans are awesome.
Even though, okay, yeah, if you're wearing red or if you're a Nebraska fan through Boulder, you're gonna get yelled at, right? And I didn't get anything thrown at me. My friends got a sandwich thrown at them before I met up with them, but I will say, I don't think I've ever had as much fun pregame than I did in Boulder because of the people yelling at me.
Oh, you definitely got into the Brownies.
No, I didn't. This was at 8:30 in the morning. I'm walking to the tailgate.
You had a Coors, didn't you?
I had not even arrived at said tailgate, and I was embracing all of the negativity that was being thrown my way. I loved it. I just loved it. I've never been heckled like that before in my life, but overall, I thought it was a great experience.
Heckled or threatened?
Probably both, but I just kind of brushed it off.
Well, Jack says Colorado is worse than and I'm sorry to still be in Colorado. Everyone's like, shut up, move on. I know it's Northern Illinois, right? Yay.
The pride of DeKalb.
Yeah, go win, says every Nebraska fan in the state and around the state. Don't make 0-3 something that the world's got to deal with tomorrow. If you're a Nebraska fan. Anonymous chimes in. If there's ever been a worse group of people in the history of the earth than Colorado Buffs fans, I'm sure the neighboring tribes quickly did away with it.
Wow.
But you know what? But Buff fans gonna have to up their game of hate this weekend from Nebraska. Do they have any left for Colorado State?
I would love.
That's real. I mean, here's a story. Cousin Jason, who went to Colorado, never finished, shockingly enough. And that's not a shot at him. That's just, 7 years to be a doctor. No, 7 years to be an undergrad and party in Boulder, brother. That's how that's how it went for him.
I had $65,000 a year.
Probably,
have fun with that tuition.
Well, he didn't have to.
They're all from Orange County. It's fine.
he wasn't, but could have been. Okay, so he got smoked by a 175 empty of Jack Daniels.
Whoa.
Where he had to go get stitches.
Yeah. That's no joke.
And I'm sure he was shooting his mouth off, knowing cousin Jason. But I mean, at least it was empty, right? No Jack was spilled in the assault that took place. But those two hate each other. I mean, Colorado fan hates Nebraska fan, but I think they hate Ram fan worse. Well, hold on. It's a coin flip. I'll walk that back. It's a coin flip. But you weren't maimed or harmed or threatened. You were just heckled.
Yeah, I was just getting yelled at, telling kind of the basics.
Was it 18 to 24-year-old?
Oh yeah, it was all college.
Because all the Buff fans that were a-holes in the late 80s, early 90s, now have a summer cottage, a comb over, or they're just losing it up top, and they have their own kids now. So they may be.
I was going to say
they may be a-holes, but they're not verbal or confrontational anymore.
I was going to say they're that
mellow.
That Colorado mellow. They're a little bit medicated in that sense whenever they're walking around town. They're not looking for a fight anymore.
They're all living in golden.
Yeah, they're golden, bro. That's funny. Speaking of medicated, let's shift over to Nebraska-Northern Illinois. You'll need a boatload of medication, whatever your fancy, if it doesn't go right tomorrow night for Nebraska. And we'll get in there. Coming up here, Jacob Padilla will hit some recruiting with us. We'll talk some Nebraska football and volleyball with him. Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman, going to be with us in hour 2. Brady Oltmans joins us. Clauseborne is back with the Friday forecast, so we'll get there. But medication, the operative word. Guys, what do you think about tomorrow here on a broader sense? We'll get into the Harburg era most likely. But the fear factor, and it sucks to go here, because a year ago, all three of us were talking about this with Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. No, we know what happened. Mm-hmm. It was time to take one of our own out to the farm, and that's what happened about a year ago. I don't know that Northern Illinois has enough, but in that same sense, who the heck knows what Nebraska even is on offense? We know what they're not, and that's consistent or that
threatening,
scary right now. We know the defense is incredible, and that's fair to say. It's fair to say incredible with that defense based on all that they've had to cover. And tomorrow, I can't bring myself to say Nebraska loses the game tomorrow. I can't. I'm not cheering. I'm not leaning. I look at it and I go, there's no way Rule and the team let that happen. Period. It can't. It could, but there's no way you can't possibly get off to this start after what you've been through with 0-6 in Frost's first year, right? And then the Riley era was a nightmare with that start as well. You can't go 0-3 tomorrow, can you?
It's a far cry, I think.
I mean, are you on the edge of your seat worried that big bad Northern Illinois is coming to town with Rocky Lombardi, who's 7 years into college?
I think the game's going to be ugly, though, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is a game.
Going into the fourth?
Yeah. Like, when you look at the spread, it's 11, and I know we'll get into the spread more so later, but, yep. I mean, it's 11 points. Do you really feel comfortable with 11 points
you better win
based off of the offense?
You better win by 2 touchdowns tomorrow. You're playing a group of 5 team, and you're only favored by 11.5. That says all you need to know about the Nebraska offense. To counter that, though, is the Nebraska defense, which I'm quite comfortable with.
Well, here's the thing. Whenever you look at Northern Illinois, it's going to come down most likely to Rocky Lombardi beating. This game could be erased at 10 points.
Rocky can't throw, dude.
On this season, Northern Illinois against Boston College and against Southern Illinois, 2 teams who are not lighting the world on fire, they're averaging 2.8 yards per rush. Northern Illinois' game plan tomorrow should not be running the football. If they come out running the football a lot, that's not a game plan for success.
It really can't be throwing the football either, though, when you look at Lombardi's numbers.
They have 55% completion percentage on the year against those teams. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, has been sacked 5 times. Northern Illinois should not be able to move the ball in this Husker defense if the Husker defense plays up to the level that we can expect from them, well, based on what we've seen through 2 games. And defensively, Northern Illinois has 1 takeaway on the year against those 2 teams.
Oh, they're smiling. They're smiling coming into Lincoln based on what the offense has done now. If Harburg's there, his first, second, and third commandment tomorrow is, son, don't fumble the ball. Son, don't throw a pick. And you're going to see a steady diet and tribute of quarterback run, quarterback handoff, safe throws. David chimed in with, for the first time since 2009, the Nebraska's had 2 games with a total less than 42. The Minnesota game closed at 40.5. That's a statement right there on just where Nebraska's offense is. Let's squeeze in a phone call real quick. Hi, you're on Hail Varsity. Who's with us?
We got Paul.
Paul, go for it, bud.
I think the word you're looking for is Wallace Shawn's line in Princess Bride. Inconceivable.
Yeah, inconceivable's fine, but there's been a lot of inconceivable here the last 20 years.
Well, that's because that word don't mean what you think it means.
The double reference.
Aha, wonderful. Well, you got a lean tomorrow?
Absolutely. The Huskers are going to wipe them off the face of the earth. We're going to take out a lot of frustration.
Okay,
Let's
that
clip
works.
that.
I will like it. Paul will hold you to it, and it won't be your fault if it doesn't happen, but we love your optimism. Thank you for the phone call. 489-1240 or 800-825-5865.
I legitimately think the question tomorrow is, can Nebraska get to 14 points? If they can get to 14 points, I struggle to believe that Northern Illinois is going to have more success than both Minnesota and Colorado based on what we have seen so far from Northern Illinois this season. It's going to come down to the Husker offense. Can they take care of the ball? Whoever's at quarterback, if it's Jeff Sims, partially healthy, if it's Heinrich Harburg at quarterback, can they take care of the ball? Can they get a couple touchdowns on the board? Can you trust your run game? Can your offensive line get it done? If you can do those things, Nebraska shouldn't have troubles tomorrow.
I am excited for tomorrow because, it's a night game. I'm anxious to see the fan base and what energy they bring because the team needs it. And the last part of this is you got a team that knows you're going to have to run to win. Can you step up and run anyway because you're air quote Nebraska? Jacob Padilla's next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good to have you in on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Cotter Clark at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence, at C_Clark_27.
Too many underscores in there for you, Schmitty.
Too many underscores. Jacob Padilla has an underscore, but at least he just has one. At Jacob Padilla _, where you follow him on Twitter.
This is unbelievable.
Read him with Hail Varsity. And Jacob, how we doing, man? Happy Friday to you.
Yeah, it's a little gloomy outside. Had a little midday rain, but should be nice and cleared up for the football games tonight. So it'll be nice and cool fall weather.
That'll be good. We'll get to the prep slate here in a bit, but gloom and doom, is that something that maybe has entered your mind for tomorrow night at Memorial Stadium? Montana Husker fan chimes in. I hate to say this, but I don't believe any Husker fan who says they aren't a bit apprehensive about tomorrow night. We got into this a little bit when it comes to level of concern, the fear factor, DEFCON level. How are you feeling? Let's get into tomorrow night. How are you feeling about Nebraska tomorrow night coming out against this Northern Illinois team?
Not great, but that's just kind of where the program is right now, right? It's hard to feel great about what we've seen through 2 weeks.
Not great.
Obviously, there's some mitigating factors and all that, and obviously the injury to Jeff Sims on top of that. Now that throws another variable into an equation that was already pretty complicated and didn't seem like they had figured out. So now it's just if you're without Sims now, not only are you're having to start over basically figuring out, all right, what works on offense, because you spent the first 2 games trying to figure things out with Sims as your quarterback and didn't quite get there. And now game 3, if he's not able to go, now you're plugging in a new quarterback with and there's some similarities, whatever, with Heinrich Harburg, but different strengths and weaknesses. Like he'll do things a little differently. So now you're starting over again and having to find some new strengths and ways to go. I think the defense will be fine. I think they're going to win this game. I don't think it'll be a last second biting your fingernails type of thing, but they definitely have to figure out a way to move the ball and put the ball in the end zone to make that happen.
Yeah, I just kind of said in our last segment, Jacob, based on what we've seen thus far from the Northern Illinois offense, they're not great at running the football. Rocky Lombardi, he's good, but he's not the type of guy that's going to go single-handedly beat you. That's kind of what it's going to come down to tomorrow. And I think it might be one of those games where 1st to 10 or 1st to 14 really feels good about their chances.
Well, they're averaging 12 a game, so.
And where's Nebraska at?
No, I'm saying Nebraska's averaging 12 a game.
Okay, I think Northern Illinois is somewhere around 17 right now. So neither offense is going to be lighting the world on fire tomorrow night. If Nebraska gets it done, who do you think it's going to fall upon in terms of who's going to carry the weight for that Husker offense to get them to, say, 14 points?
Just the run game. and so that's the offensive line and the backs. I don't think you can go out there and ask Harburg if he has to start, ask for him to throw for 200 yards, throw 2 touchdowns, run for 80 yards, another score. Like, that's putting a lot on a guy making his first start, playing his first real snaps outside of a couple of garbage time plays in that last game. So you need to be able to get that running game working. You got to be able to hand the ball off and stay ahead of the chains. It can't be hand it off, you get stuffed at the line, then you pick up 2 or 3 yards on second down, and suddenly 3rd and 7, and now you need Harburg to go make a play. That can't be every drive. It seems like Nebraska just too often can't stay ahead of the chains, whether it be a mistake that either sets them back or turns the ball over entirely, or just can't execute, and you don't get enough yardage out of the play. So that's going to be the key, is staying ahead of the chains so you don't have to put your passing offense in bad situations, because that's where the turnovers happened in the first week. Second week, turnovers happened in any situation, unfortunately. But that was kind of a bizarre situation, the way that played out. So I don't know that you would hopefully have to factor in, all right, bad snaps into the game plan. Hopefully that was a 1-week blip, and they'll be able to move forward without that having to be a talking point. Because if they can't, then it's going to be a long season. So they've got to be able to get Gabe Ervin going, figure out, all right, is Anthony Grant back in the mix? How are you going to use Ramir Johnson? And then maybe you toss in the tight ends too. Try to get Harburg some kind of intermediate completions. Try to get Thomas Fedoni a couple of early catches after getting kind of those first 2 down at the end of the last game. Like, hey, I still got it. I can still be an impact player out here. So just try to keep the pressure off the passing game every way possible.
Now, Jacob, I want to talk about the defense for just a second here, and it's been obviously really, really good. I think anybody can go around confidently saying that this defense is a legitimate defense, but I feel like in this game especially, creating a short field for your offense via causing the turnover is going to be absolutely crucial, because out of all the areas that the defense has been absolutely fantastic in, I feel like the turnover and causing those turnovers has been a little bit below what it should be so far.
Yeah, and that's kind of, we've seen a lot of things to like about the defense, but they haven't necessarily made game-changing plays. You had the Omar Brown interception that first week, but it wasn't like that play flipped the field or put points on the board or anything like that. Like, the defense has mostly been just stout. They've forced some punts. They've held up in the red zone, forced some field goals. They've forced teams to go on long drives if they are going to move the ball. And they've gotten off the field some, but they haven't, like you said, haven't made those game-changing, the pick six, the fumble recovery in the red zone, giving them the ball, giving the offense the ball inside the 40 where you only need a couple of first downs and you're in striking distance. That would be the next step. And you would think that would come with the amount of pressure that they got last week against Colorado. When you sack a quarterback 8 times, you'd normally expect there'll be a fumble in there, there'll be a pick in there with pressure down his kind of coming at him. So that didn't happen. Shadur Sanders is obviously a very talented quarterback back there. I don't think Rocky Lombardi is quite that talented, particularly as a passer. We've seen him before.
Maybe he just needs a Rolex and some shades. Who knows?
Yeah, great football name. I don't think he's a great football player, particularly a great passer. So if you can get the same level of pressure in his face, I think there will be opportunities for to create those turnovers, and that would be a big step forward. And that will kind of help the offense get on track if you can make things easy on them. You don't have to stay ahead of the chains if you get the ball, you're starting inside the 40, and you only need to pick up 1 or 2 first downs before you have a chance to score. So that would be. I mean, you either need the defense to start forcing turnovers at a higher rate, or the offense to stop turning the ball over anywhere near the rate. And it seems like the defense is probably closer to doing that than the offense. So that would probably be a step forward in a way to kind of get some confidence and maybe lead to the offense improving the turnovers.
Jacob, now that we've hit both offense and defense, kind of their outlook for tomorrow, I want you to give me a couple guys, one or two outside of Jeff Sims because his status is still in the air, but a couple guys that haven't quite lived up to expectations this year and have potential for a get-right game tomorrow. It's kind of the story of the game tomorrow is you hope it's a get-right game for Nebraska, clean up some of the errors from the first two games and be able to put it on the field against Northern Illinois, try to start building some confidence. Who are a couple guys that you think it's important for them to start getting some confidence built as Northern Illinois is in town tomorrow and then looking ahead, Louisiana Tech the next week? Who are a couple guys that need that confidence boost?
I already mentioned Thomas Fedoni, and I think if they can get him going, that would be a really cool story. Obviously, there haven't been a lot of feel-good stories this early in the season to this point with the record they have and the way things have gone. But if it is Harburg there, he and Fedoni already have a little bit of action there. They know each other. We saw that quarterback, or we saw him. That connection there with the touchdown at the end of the game, and again, I don't necessarily know that you want to ask Harburg to be throwing the ball 40 yards down the field trying to hit deep balls. You're gonna have to work the intermediate part of the field, and a little bit easier to probably target a guy like Fedoni than a guy like Billy Kemp, just with the size and the accuracy needed to get the ball to him in those areas. So. I think he'd be one, and then no real way to track this, but the left side of that offensive line in particular, I think has struggled so far to start the season. So those guys over there, they have to, you got to see some improvement there. Hopefully that they can take a step forward, can hold up, be sound, and give you enough push up front that you can get the ground game going. So I guess that would be Turner Corcoran and Ethan Piper specifically there.
Well, and we'll see if there's a Teddy P sighting and maybe Turner slides into left guard. You've got some options you may need to look at on that left side. It's been pretty rough at the guard spot and tackle spot, and as a tandem, it's not been great. Jacob, a couple of minutes here. Game you're locked in on tonight for high school coverage with Hurrdat Sports. 2, the story of Anthony Rizak making his trip to Memorial Stadium tomorrow. Give me a thought on both of those.
Yeah, I'm continuing my Class B tour this week. Was out there for Grand Island Northwest against Elkhorn North last night, seeing the Wolves, who we've got number 2 in our coach poll, and tonight I'll be seeing Ole Muscat, who I believe is number 3 in the poll against Elkhorn, who is another top 10 team. So that's where I'll be tonight. It'll be new for me. The last few weeks, all the games I've been to have either been at Buell or at Bellevue West. So it's the only 2 stadiums I've been to before last night out at Elkhorn. So I'm starting to spread around a little bit, get a chance to see a little bit of Class B to go with kind of the Class A that I've seen.
Jacob, I've got about 20 seconds before we got to get out. Can you give me 2 minutes on the other side on Teddy?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. I said Teddy. Teddy's a Notre Dame guy, obviously, but Anthony's who I'm thinking of. Super talent at quarterback for Westside. So we'll get Jacob's take on Mr. Rizak and some of the other local visitors for Nebraska's big recruiting weekend. Jacob Padilla hanging out. Hail Varsity is where you find him. Can follow him on Twitter at Jacob Padilla _ is where you go to find him. Bill Doleman coming up next hour. We'll hear from the infamous, he's imaginary, he wears red, Clauseborne, coming up here in about an hour with the Friday forecast. Hail Varsity continues, and always stream the show, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging tight. It's Hail Varsity, and we're rocking through a Friday. That sounds so good. Thank you, Strokes, for the bumper music. We continue with Jacob Padilla from Hail Varsity. So we got to talk Mr. Anthony Rizak. He is a gamer. He's a baller. He's incredible, and he's going to find his way to Lincoln. Jacob, some thoughts on that extension by Nebraska, and could you see them not only go beyond kicking tires to him, but offering him as maybe a second quarterback in the class.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're doing their due diligence at least. Like Anthony has earned that. If nothing else, he's earned the chance for them to take a look at what he's done, because at this point, he's done about everything you could ask of a quarterback. I mean, he's 45 touchdowns to 5 picks for his career, upper 60s percentage. It's over 76 completion percentage this year. Obviously, small sample size so far. They haven't needed him to throw a ton yet, but he's got the size, about 6'3" and change. He's got the athleticism. We've seen the way that he can run the ball. And obviously, twin brother Teddy, like you mentioned, committed Notre Dame as a DB up there. So I think the touchdown to interception ratio, I think, and his completion rate show that has the ability to kind of make reads and make good decisions back there as a quarterback. So I think the one question is kind of just the overall arm talent and the ability to make all the throws, the strength to make them in tight windows that you'll find at the next level. I'm not a quarterback expert. I don't claim to be, so I don't know that. Like, can he make all the throws needed to play quarterback at the next level? I don't know. That would be just evaluating what I've seen of him. That would be kind of the only question mark I would think that maybe would hold him back, or at least the question that he has to answer if he's going to get higher level offers than he's received to this point. But because I think outside of that, he's done everything you can ask of him. He's got great players around him, and that certainly makes it easy. But he's also, like, I know there's a Twitter account that talked about what he's done, empty calories and a bunch of 5-yard throws or whatever. But that touchdown throw to Caleb Benning last week, just right over the top of Davon Hall, obviously a big, talented athlete in his own right, just perfect throw. And a few of the plays he made, like, yeah, they're talented enough to run some screens to get him some easy completions, but he's also completing balls downfield and throwing into some tight windows there. So empty calories, that's nonsense. He's a great high school football player, and I'm glad that Nebraska has given him the opportunity to come down and take a look around campus and for them to maybe take a closer look at him.
What do you make of the struggles of Bellevue West and Daniel Kalen to start the season so far? 2-2. I think Bellevue West, their fans, even that team, kind of expected more to start the season. Is that reason for concern moving forward for the Thunderbirds with that start, or do you think they're going to regress back to what we expected their mean to be whenever the year started?
They got to quit having Kranek on the sideline. It's a problem.
They're cursed.
Yeah, it just doesn't seems like nothing's easy for them right now offensively. This is a system that we've seen put up some big numbers, big offensive games, and we saw it last year with some of those games. Obviously, those shootouts, Gretna, just phenomenal high school football game. And Danny Kalen put up some big numbers there. Obviously, Isaiah McMorris, 1,100 yards receiving last year. Part of it is they've had some injuries there with McMorris, and now Davon Hall went down in that game last week, and I would be surprised to see him again this season. So that's really unfortunate. McMorris has been dealing with the hamstring issue that's had him in and out of the lineup. So that's another big piece there that would be part of it. And it just, in the games that I've watched, I'm seeing him play twice in person now. They just, for whatever reason, they haven't been able to get anything going downfield. The receivers aren't open. The passes aren't on target. Just, they have not been on the same page for whatever reason. And maybe the offensive line hasn't been quite what they need it to be to really put up the numbers and to get that downfield passing game going. So I think that's just the problem right now, is they're just not in sync. They're not getting anything easy. And then when you roll up against some of the best teams that they're going to play, nothing is going to be easy. You got to go out and earn everything. And they just weren't able to do it enough to stay in that game. And defensively, they're still figuring out some things as well with system change and plugging in some new players. They've got some talented pieces back there. It just hasn't quite come together yet to where you can rely on that defense to carry you, and the offense isn't clicking at the rate it needs to either.
Jacob, does anything surprise you? We'll end on this from Caleb Benning. I mean, the guy just can catch it, can pick it, can score it, can return it. He's a ton of fun to watch.
No doubt. Just no matter what sport he's playing, physical, fearless, just flying in there, making plays. He's been a lot of fun to kind of grow, and I'm happy that he's finally healthy now. He's had a lot of issues that he's had to battle throughout his high school career, and to see Westside get off to the start with him being such a featured piece. And one game he'll go out and catch over 100 yards passing, and the next game he'll make all his plays on defense. In the next game, he'll make a big impact play in the return game. So just, he's as fun to watch as anybody in the state and can impact the game in as many different ways as anybody you'll find.
Could you see him doing both at the next level?
Both what?
Offense, defense.
I don't think so. I think it's just so hard to do that. Like what Travis Hunter has done is just ridiculous. There's a reason that you don't see it that often, just because it's hard to be really great at both. If you're not like, it's hard to be really good at one if you're not putting all your time into that. And then you've got the logistics of, all right, how much time does he spend with this group in practice? Where's he going here? Mm-hmm. I think that there are a lot of reasons why we don't see that. I'd expect him to kind of focus in and pick one at the next level, which is, I mean, all these kids played in all these different phases of the game in high school. But it's just so much easier to have success if you're able to really lock in and train in one specific area, I think.
Jacob, we have about 60 seconds here. I might as well ask you one more. So I want you to call your shot for tomorrow, Northern Illinois, Nebraska. Who is under center for Nebraska whenever the first team offense trots out there about, I guess it's either going to be about 6:05 or about 6:15, depending on who gets the ball first. But who's going to be under center first for the Huskers?
I think it'll be Harburg, just with any time that you don't get a good update, the last one going in, you don't hear about a guy being able to practice, then you kind of have your doubts. And you definitely don't want to rush a guy back out there, especially in a game like this, and have him play limited, have him potentially get hurt again, rush him back. So I think they'll give Harburg a shot and try to get through this week, get Sims healthy, and then reevaluate moving forward.
Jacob, enjoy your coverage as always, man. Thanks for giving us some time today here on Hail Varsity, and looking forward to reading you with Hail Varsity, and of course following you on social media at Jacob Padilla _ with all your high school updates. Bud, take care, and we'll check in next week, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, there he is. Some overtime with Jacob. He's, it'd be nice. Jacob just, hey, can you give us 2 more minutes? No, I gotta get to a game. I'm working, man. I'm busy. So a lot of love to Jacob Padilla.
It's kind of like proposing to a woman at a sporting event in front of all the people on the big screen.
You don't do it.
Don't say no.
You better have that yes.
Yeah.
Bill Doleman coming up next hour, and Brady Oltmans also. Hail Varsity continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, it's Hail Varsity Radio. Find us on Twitter, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. YouTube channel, subscribe to that, Hail Varsity. And the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. All ways you can get the show. Reminder to get buckled up. 1 of every 3 fatal crashes in Nebraska involves an alcohol-impaired driver. Why take chances if you drink? Don't drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. So what are you guys doing? I know you're doing pregame with me, Elijah, 3 to 5. Single barrels where we want to see you. We've got some goodies for you, not Colorado goodies, but koozies and shades and all that stuff, and they're non-Dion shades. Okay,
I can make a couple calls, see if I get some Colorado goodies. Would that drive the people in?
You stay out of jail and you stay out of trouble. Connor, I know you're busy, but both of you guys are going to be rocking a Real Red Reaction tomorrow, about 10 o'clock, and you
call it 9. We'll call it 9.
You may come in with a handle already, or you may be calling for help with some sedative, if it's a repeat of these moments in Nebraska football the last 7 to 8 years, where this is the get right game in the season after a rugged start, and it doesn't go that way.
Well, it's called the Real Red Reaction Show, and if the Huskers do drop this game tomorrow night, that show is going to get really real. Whenever I bring a sixer of tall boys in for me and Connor to split during the show, it's going to get really real, I tell you what.
I'll make the phone lines that much more entertaining.
Yep. Sure. Brian checks in. Is Brandon Baker still visiting tomorrow? As far as we know, he is. And if I'm Matt Rule, I don't let him leave, to be honest with you. But, that's interesting. I think Nebraska fans are pretty geared up for this home soiree. It's the latest home kickoff since 81. I believe 1981, that year started 1-2 for Nebraska. They got stung. No, hold on. They beat Iowa, I think. They lost to Penn State. And then they beat Auburn. That was their first 3 games to open the year. They were ranked. They went unranked. Hold on. Maybe it was they lost to Iowa. They beat Penn State. They beat Auburn.
Should I do the fact check, or should we just take?
I have the teams right. I'm fairly certain. I'm just trying to remember the order. Yeah, because in 81, Nebraska ended up working their way back to playing for the championship against Clemson. What does 1981 Nebraska say?
Let's see. Nebraska won 17-3 in 81
over Auburn,
and they beat them 41-7 in 82. So
yeah, that was the Bo Jackson. So bring up the 81 schedule though, because the reason I'm talking about 81 is it's the latest home game tomorrow since the 81 season.
Let's see. At Iowa, you had a home game against Florida State in 81.
Oh, okay.
Which you won 34-14 on September 19th. So you didn't start the year until September 12th back in 81.
Apparently.
Wow.
So tell me, break down 81 for me.
81, you started off with a loss at Iowa.
See, I was right. I said that 10-7?
10-7. You beat Florida State 34-14 at home. Then you lost to Penn State 30-24 at home, and then you took down Auburn at home 17.
How about that to open the bleeping year?
Number 7 in the country, number 17 in the country, then number 15 in the country.
Right. So I was right. They lost to Iowa. They lost to Penn State. I didn't have Bobby Bowden in there.
Yeah, but that was a September 19th, week 2 game.
Man.
Wow.
Bill Doleman, he was probably there in 1981. We'll check in with the Pride of Fairbury. Hour 2 on the way with Hail Varsity.
He's the Pride of Fairbury, an average Joe. Bill Doleman, the professor.
I had a 6 ACT in 1967. One time I got an A and my grandma beat me for cheating.
Now with Hail Varsity Radio.
It is hour 2, Friday edition. It's Hail Varsity. Hail Varsity YouTube channel and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed. Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, the professor. Locked in for Nebraska-Northern Illinois. Pride of Fairbury, that I was asking the fellas, it's Fashion Sense Friday, if I can pull off purple. Am I more like Grimace, or do I look, I don't know, like Jack did and As Good As It Gets, wearing that purple? They didn't hate it, they didn't love it, so I'm okay. You've got the emerald green on, which I like. If you're watching the video portion on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, you can see Doleman's emerald green going. But is that for color of money? Bill, are you heading down to Warhorse for a G on Nebraska tomorrow?
Well, first of all, I got my fingers crossed that the audio is going to work.
It is. You're sounding loud and clear and loud.
Huge relief, because, I listened to that intro for myself, and I'm kind of taking that personally. But anyway, yeah, it's a green. If it wasn't for NBC, I'd have no clothes at all. Thank God for that. So I wear it they give me, and wear that out quite a bit. But.
Well, with the blue, with the purple on Schmidt and the green on Bill, if you guys were in the same room, you'd start looking like you're Barney the Dinosaur fans,
Yeah, pretty much.
Never saw it.
Hey, do you remember that? I'm remembering when Schmidt wore that like pastel orange thing that one day.
Hold on.
Kind of brightened up our lives, as I recall. So
that was the Oklahoma. That was the Oklahoma game.
Fashion Friday.
So that was the Oklahoma game last year, and it was a tribute to the Orange Bowl, because whoever won Nebraska, Oklahoma would go play in the Orange Bowl and lose to Miami.
It was quite the fashion statement.
Still have it. Best on sale shirt ever. Bill, what do you think? Get right Saturday for Nebraska tomorrow?
It is gotta get right Saturday for Nebraska tomorrow. And I think they will. look, you can point to Northern Illinois' big rivalry victory loss to Southern Illinois. Beg your pardon. That's right. They had the big win over Boston College, and then the letdown in their rivalry game against Southern Illinois. That's how it's gone. I really don't think it matters all that much. But this is a game that Nebraska not only has to win, but they have to play well and win. And Nebraska fans will identify quite clearly and easily if it's a good looking win or if there are still some more problems that are concerning. So you can't. Yes, any win is a good win. But Nebraska fans will be able to recognize pretty quickly as to whether or not Nebraska's been making improvements from the Minnesota game to last week's game and any corrections that needed to be made in practice. You can say it's a good win, but Nebraska fans know better.
Bill, is there any importance to style points for you tomorrow with how this team looks? Is the win the only thing that matters? 'Cause I look back in my Rolodex. There's been some close victories at home. I don't think many Husker fans felt great coming out of the North Dakota game last year or a couple years ago with South Alabama in town. Week 1, I believe it was. You didn't feel great coming out of that game as you need your defense to get a couple touchdowns. I guess it was defense with a touchdown and J.D. Spielman with a punt return touchdown. That was your difference in the game. Or even a couple years before that, 2017, Arkansas State, where Arkansas State recovers the onside kick and has a chance to go drive down and win it with less than a minute left. There's been a lot of close calls against these non-Power 5 schools at Memorial Stadium in recent memory. Does style points and how Nebraska wins tomorrow matter to you, assuming Nebraska is the victor tomorrow?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, it's one thing to play a good opponent and you fight and you come out with a win, and if you play well. And I've always said this for many, many years. Even if Nebraska plays well and loses, I believe Nebraska fans are savvy enough to go, you know what? They were just better on this day than we were. And the one game that comes to my mind, so I can't remember the date now. It's been so many years. But when Texas came to town and ended the, a 40-plus game home
47-game home win streak, Ricky Williams, Halloween 1998.
Thank you. But, great game. And Texas was probably better that season than Nebraska, but people were entertained. They knew it was a tough battle, and Texas was just better. But you do have those games where you just eke out a win, and it just does not feel very good, and you know that there's probably more troubles to come. So is it necessarily style points? I'm not quite sure about that. Is it efficiency? Is it playing without the mistakes that are glaring? Penalties at bad times, holding on to the football or not. If there are more turnovers, again, you have 4 turnovers in a game, no matter how much you win by, people will point at that you're just not cleaning up play. You're not paying attention to detail. That's a problem.
Bill, the spread is 11, and this is an offense that is barely averaging a little bit more than 11. Maybe I'm being the pessimist in the room here, but I honestly have a really hard time seeing Nebraska cover this spread tomorrow. Is that an egregious thing to say?
Well, I'm thinking based on what we've seen from Northern Illinois point-wise. I mean, they had to go to overtime to get 27 against a bad BC team. They only scored 11 last week against Southern Illinois. My guess is the prognosticators are saying it's going to be a 12-0 game.
I'd take it.
It might be Tristan Alvano's great awakening party or whatever for Nebraska football, and he does like Dale Klein kicked 7 field goals against Missouri 40 years ago. Tristan Alvano kicks 4 field goals and wins it. And if that's the case, those would not be sufficient enough style points for people to be satisfied with the win. Okay, if Tristan Alvano kicks 4 field goals, the offense better come up with 4 touchdowns. All right, that's the way it needs to be.
Harburg likely under center tomorrow. What do you expect from him?
I've been thinking about that today, and I'm just kind of feeling that's what it's going to be, because I think if Jeff Sims were healthy enough, we would know that by now, that there would have been sufficient progress. I'm really surprised. Matt Rule meets the media with pretty consistent frequency during the course of the season, and I think that had Jeff Sims made sufficient progress that he probably would have said that, yesterday, Jeff's our guy, and this is what it's going to be. But we're going to work Harburg in. We're going to keep a close eye on him. Maybe we get Heinrich in there so that he gets some quality snaps in case we do need him. So the game plan may have been this. Jeff's healthy enough to play, but we have got to get Heinrich, or is it Chuba or Chuba, Fox? Chuba Purdy in there to get some quality, snaps, because if Jeff does get hurt, those guys have to have some seasoning. But because we have not heard, and I have a hard time believing that we're gonna play poker with Northern Illinois and then shock the world with Jeff Sims coming out, I don't think we're playing that game. So that kind of tells me that it might be Heinrich Harburg's day to start with Purdy throwing pitches in the bullpen right away.
The last guy that wants to lead Nebraska out of the new tunnel, injured, a la Mike Mitter and Tommy Frazier right now, is Jeff Sims with this crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other part of this, guys, is the energy, the crowd, and their frustration level that's going to be on display if something goes wrong tomorrow night.
Especially if it was if Jeff Sims gets out there, he's healthy enough to play, and I hope he is. Because I would love to see him start to redeem himself a little bit, especially in the home opener. But if he gets out there and you've got a turnover or two in the first half, that would not be good.
And I'd be surprised that this is something that we're going to not know until kickoff. My take is if Jeff Sims suits up tomorrow, I think Jeff Sims starts. If Jeff Sims is in street clothes tomorrow, I think that's the obvious sign. Because I don't think you can have Jeff Sims be suited up, ready to go, and be sitting on the sideline all game long because of the message that sends not only to the fan base but also to your team. Hey, you're healthy enough to suit up, you're not healthy enough to play. I think that indicates a strong sense of doubt within the coaching staff about a guy. Either you're healthy enough to play or you're going to be in street clothes, because you worry about a guy's confidence in that sense, that if he's suited up and he's on the sideline all game long, just whether or not it's intentional, not the message that does send to the player, to the crowd, to the team.
And I think you also, if it is Harburg, I think you do have to have Purdy throwing some pitches and getting him out there, because you cannot rely, obviously, on the health of one man. You've got to have Harburg ready to go. It's a good thing that he was out there for a couple of snaps, even if it was in the H-back or tight end spot against Minnesota, and he got a couple of snaps against Colorado. But I think you've got to work them both in tomorrow, just because you have to have somebody ready. And it can't be their first snaps of the season, 5 games in, and say, well, we're going to see what we got. You got to know what you have in those situations. So I think if it's not Sims, I think it's both, with Harburg probably getting the majority of the snaps, because Purdy's also been a little on the injured side.
So say this is a hypothetical situation and Sims is not hurt. What kind of leash are you giving him in this game if he was healthy, or in his next game back, just because of the turnover issues, the drop snaps, and just the inability for the offense thus far to create points?
I don't know. That's a delicate, I guess maybe that's why
Bill doesn't make $8.5 million a year.
I asked because a lot of people have seen enough.
Or even a measly $1.4 million. Right? You're talking about the delicate balance of the fragile psyche. Now, come on, this is a little too esoteric, but I would, if he were to get out there tomorrow and have a first quarter turnover, I don't want to see. I don't want to see.
A lot of people say they've seen enough. That's why I asked.
All of a sudden, in front of 95,000 people. I'm sorry, 92,002. Do you yank him out of the game? Right in front of everybody. That would be quite the scene. But you would certainly hear it from the Memorial Stadium crowd. Which, by the way, I know Husker fans are anxious and agitated over what's happened the last 2 weeks, and people think that there's going to be frustration spilling out of the stadium tomorrow. I don't think that's going to be the case. It's the home opener. People have been anticipating this for a long time. I know they're 0-2, but I still think the vast majority of the 90,000 people who will be there tomorrow are going to be really excited that Nebraska is finally playing a home game again. They're going to welcome Matt Rule with open arms and a firm handshake to Marcus Satterfield and company. But I don't think those who have been most venomous on social media are the ones who are going to have the loudest voices tomorrow.
Bill, obviously a lot of ire has been thrown towards Jeff Sims within the past week, but the other guy on the offensive side of the ball that's also received a lot of ire is the guy you just mentioned, Marcus Satterfield. How does he go out and redeem himself for the Husker fans tomorrow?
I said this the other day. I'm not as critical of the play calling for Nebraska. The probably the one that most glaring is the fourth quarter against Minnesota when the game seemed to be well in hand, and there were the 3 pass plays, 3 and out. Now the receiver was open on the long. Was it Tommy Hill was open and Sims missed him? Okay, they took the shot. Probably should have gone back to the ground and cranked out a first down on the ground. But that 3 and out was costly. Those were 3 ill-advised play sequence. That was a bad sequence of 3 plays. But I think for the most part, they have relied on the ground game. You're getting 5 yards per carry from Gabe Ervin. You've got a quarterback, if he can hold on to the ball. And Sims hasn't fumbled the ball when he's run with the ball. He's fumbled the ball with snaps and bad handoffs, and he's thrown the ball ill-advisedly. So when he's carried it as the primary back on a play, he's been effective. So I think I don't think it has been a poorly called game by the offensive coordinator. There has been some very poor ball handling execution at some incredibly inopportune times. And I think that has stymied the offense. So I've liked some of the things I've seen from them. They moved the ball well to begin the game against Colorado. They had a couple of option looks, but in fumbles and whatnot, take them out of points scoring opportunities.
Bill, real quick, about 90 seconds. I need your take on Sims and the stage. Do you think the stage is bothering him? Secondly, I need a score prediction.
I would hope the stage isn't bothering him because, he left a place where there was no stage. Georgia Tech's got a great name, but, college football players should live for opportunities to play on a stage like Memorial Stadium. Nebraska's 0-2, and once again, we'll have a sellout crowd tomorrow. It's going to be a spectacular atmosphere. You should thrive on that. If you can't handle the stage, then go be a part of the Northern Illinois-Southern Illinois rivalry, okay? If that's what you're most comfortable with and you're afraid of this stage, you don't belong on it, right? Guys like Tommy Frazier thrived on, stages like this. So I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. If he does play, I hope he plays well. I hope Heinrich Haarberg plays well, and I hope Nebraska prepares a quarterback and prepares quarterback depth. Final score, it's an 11-point Nebraska.
11
the
and a
Huskers
half.
are favored by 42 is the over-under, 42-11.
Okay, Bill says the overs for everyone out there.
43-10.
Okay.
No, 40, yeah, they cover.
I'm not sure which score is harder to reach, 43 or 11. How does the team even get 11 points last week?
They literally did it last week. So
We did it last week.
How? Is that 3 field goals? And I'll admit, I didn't watch the game.
they
How the
score
hell
a
did they
touchdown,
get
you
to
go for 2, and you kick a field goal.
Or
Three field goals in a
you
stage.
just live in the special teams era of Frost.
There, that's the good one.
That
right
is,
there.
yeah. You could do that.
A lot of 2-pointers given up.
Go play in Canada, get a couple of rouges.
Yes. Bill, we will get you a Geddes tomorrow at the Single Barrel. How's that sound?
Damn straight, bro.
3 to 5,
Oh,
weekend
man.
edition tomorrow. 3 to 5 tomorrow at the Single Barrel for the weekend edition. Real Red Reaction as
Was
well.
Connor in class earlier this week?
We haven't seen Connor for 7 years.
We were told he was in class.
Yeah,
I was in your class.
it's a good
That's what
answer. Billy D will check in tomorrow, brother. Thank you.
All right, go Big Red.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
and Elijah
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. It's Hail Varsity of Friday as we welcome in Brady Oltmans. And you are, what is that glorious XFL hat? Please tell us about it.
It's one of those magnificent finds you get at a truck stop. I think this one.
There's a lot of things you can find at a truck stop, Brady.
This is one of the better things you can get for $5 there.
You're gonna leave that one be. You're gonna leave that one be.
Well, it depends if you're inside the truck stop or behind it.
Oh, this one came straight from the basket, right by the. I guess it was the Power Waters or whatever 150 Cent owns, but I think this one came from Sidney, Nebraska on an excursion one time. So I took it out for the dog walk because it was kind of drizzling and I forgot I had it on, but I'm glad I got it on now.
Oh, good work. I love the XFL hat. Brady Oltmans with us. Okay. Focus. So let's talk Harburg, man. You've seen a lot of Heinrich. You've covered him in high school, covered him during the recruiting process, and probably going to get the nod tomorrow, or our little birdies tell us anyway. So lay it out for me. Let's apply the snippet of Boulder to tomorrow. And how do you kind of plan around him? Yes, his legs, yes, his arm, but overall, I mean, we've really not seen his total upside at the college level, have we?
No, I think because he's gifted, just athletically gifted. I think the biggest question mark with him is in accuracy, reading guys coming out of their breaks, and the repetitions, the rhythm that he has with the receivers, because it's tough for that new kind of oddball receiver group because it never seems to be the same week after week. To get a rhythm going with a new quarterback is a tall order, but Heinrich's a guy that he's clearly gifted. I mean, he was gifted in high school. He's athletically talented. He's got a good arm. He can make good decisions. I mean, you see him. It's not like his decision making is poor. Even when he was in Boulder, in a really hostile environment against a pretty talented team. So I think he's in a good position, which I think is a testament to him and even to the coaching staff, considering about this time last year, the offensive coordinator kind of laughed away the idea of him even seeing, getting padded up on a travel roster, and he could potentially be starting the home opener tomorrow. So again, credit to him, credit to the coaching staff. He can go if need be, and I assume that they'll kind of cater the offense to suit his strengths.
And Brady, what do you make of the arm talent of a guy like Heinrich Harburg? Because I think a lot of people forget that back when he was recruited out of Kearney Catholic, he wasn't seen as a guy that was exclusively a threat with his legs. I think from my perspective here in Lincoln, from talking recruiting back then, he was seen as a guy that was more of a mobile pocket passer as opposed to a guy who was truly a threat with the legs and the arm being secondary. What do you remember from his high school career, and what do you think he can be for Nebraska based on what we've seen in limited snaps and in the spring games?
Well, he was a long time standout at Kearney Catholic. I mean, it wasn't just like he emerged on the scene on a junior or senior year. People knew about him, which is a testament to his ability. Because Kearney Catholic, I didn't think they'd rebound after that big loss to Lawrence Nelson over a decade earlier. You know what I mean? But but Heinrich was one of those guys that you just see in every sport. I mean, he stand out, and I think you even see a little bit of that back in the off season when they had the winter conditioning and the Husker Olympics, and he'd throw it off the backboard, catch it well behind his head and dunk it. I mean, he's still got that same athleticism. He's still got that pure talent to make the plays, to make the reads. I mean, he got accolades in high school partially again because he wasn't just an athlete making the plays. He was a bona fide football player out there going about it. And at quarterback, it's a lot to ask for. Granted, the Big Ten is a little bit different, than starting at Kearney Catholic, but you can't ask him to take on Big Ten opponents at that place. But he did his job, took care of business, and he's grown into this position now. So, I mean, I think for him, it's probably been a long time coming, and I think you've slowly seen in the years since then that he's kind of worked his way into this role. I mean, keep in mind, they were talking maybe moving him to tight end in the offseason, and he stands tall and sticks to his guns, and now he's a quarterback. So kudos to him.
So Brady, what would be kind of your benchmark performance line from Harburg to deem it a success? Now, obviously a win, but what do you need to see from Heinrich tomorrow, assuming he starts this game and that stat line when it's all said and done?
Well, I'll be totally honest. The bar for quarterback play for Nebraska isn't particularly high this season so far.
I would agree.
So taking care of the football is number one. But you just game management, just pure game management. A guy to not obviously hold on to the football, make the right reads, get his handoffs in, and then when they're marching and actually have some momentum, don't make the bad decision, don't make the bad throw, don't eyeball a receiver down. Trust your gut on instincts like that, and live to fight another day. Send it into row G if you have to. Just a guy who's able to manage a game in that situation. Clearly, he's going to be in favorable conditions. He's going to have, some 88,000 people chanting and cheering for him, surrounding him, which is certainly a lot. You could ask for a lot worse things to have to go into in a college football opener and debut. But, he's a guy that's just going to have to manage the game and then let the other guys kind of take their roles and trust his offensive line, which I think has been playing pretty well so far.
Brady Oltmans with us at Brady Oltmans on Twitter's where you find him. We've got Colin apparently in South Bend throwing out the Nebraska's the thief of joy for football. You have happy Notre Dame fans going on. We'll see how happy they are. I think they beat Ohio State. Yes, I'm calling my shot a week early. But we'll see. We'll see how happy Notre Dame fans are. But, Colin, thanks for checking in from South Bend.
And that drive to South Bend, you'd think it'd be a lot prettier than it is, but then you drive through Gary, Indiana.
It looks like you're entering hell.
Indiana might be the worst state in America, and I'm not even kidding.
And then
especially drive-through state.
You're driving down the interstate,
horrible.
and it's awful looking, and then you see the exit for South Bend, you look right, and you see these nice buildings, you go, where the hell did that come from? It's like a gym in the middle of absolute hell.
Well, there's
it's
campus,
like a mirage in the middle of the desert.
Yeah. There's campus, and then there's South Bend.
Yeah.
So Brady, let's talk recruiting on a national scale. Modern day Brandon Baker, he's visiting tomorrow. You have Nebraska in the mix, of course. It sounds like it's Texas or Ohio State, Florida State, Oregon. Grant Brix, I know you've been in contact with both of those camps. Tell us a little bit from what your intel's saying about Nebraska's chances. Tackle's a big spot for the Big Red.
Yeah, I mean, Baker, I think it was always a long shot to get him, but it's also a testament to Matt Rule and the coaching staff and Nebraska's reputation for offensive linemen that he continues to, keep Nebraska in the mix. Brix, a little bit different story. I mean, he's a little bit more local. He's going to be a guy this coaching staff has been after him for a while. He's been on the recruiting radar for a while, and it would be a big get because they need to hunker down in the line. They closed in strong on this last offensive line group in the 2023 class. And either one of these guys would be obviously a great cornerstone for this recruiting class. It would be a big one. And I've long said, and I'm sure you guys can understand, just getting a kid like Brandon Baker, just getting him to Lincoln for a game day. There is a lot of great atmospheres for college football in the country. Nebraska on a game day, I mean, that's a pretty good selling point for a recruit to just be like, whatever happens, however you're playing, you got the chance to play in front of this. I mean, there's not a lot of kids who will just look at that and say, yeah, I'm not interested at all. So you get both of them in, plus the new Rule era. I know it's two lackluster showings so far for this football team, but put them in front of the home fans in a favorable game that they could potentially win. I mean, you like your chances with getting at least one of them. Brick's probably a lot more so than Baker.
Another big name on campus tomorrow, Brady, is a guy that's really raised his profile within the past couple of weeks. Anthony Rizak, the quarterback from West Side, still sounds like his recruitment's as an athlete. You're not sure if he's going to be a quarterback at the next level or not, but he's shown that talent for West Side this year. Another question that is raised from that is the commitment already of Daniel Kalen. Do you want to bring in two quarterbacks? Tell me a little bit about Anthony Rizak, what the staff likes about him, and whether the Huskers would be willing to take two scholarship quarterbacks this cycle.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rizak is one of those kids that he was clearly talented last year. I think he's always been talented, but you just see it a lot more of a bona fide quarterback prospect this fall. He's got a lot more of a body work. Obviously, Westside has just been bonkers on offense.
They're a buzzsaw.
That's tough. And Rizak's going to be one of those guys that I think it's proof, even just in familial lines. Nebraska doesn't want to miss on some of these in-state kids that end up, growing into something else, or that another program looks and sees, hey, we can do something with you. So I think that this is another one of those cases. Could he be a quarterback? I'm not exactly sure how Matt Rule would want to manage it. It is not unlike Marcus Satterfield, offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, to take two quarterbacks in the same class. He's done that before at South Carolina. They've done that before at Baylor. So it isn't a no-no as far as he's concerned. They've done it in the past. So it's definitely a potential. It's just going to be a matter of, do they see him as a college quarterback? I mean, I would say it's a lot more likely now than it was this time last year or even last November. But, I mean, the kid's incredibly athletically gifted. You could put him in the secondary. You can move him all over. And he's got the tools that they could develop into something pretty special at the next level.
He's a winner. He's a leader. He's talented enough. And there are worse options at quarterback than you can gamble on. I'd get him and just say, hey, we'll give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out, you're playing somewhere else because you're a dude. He's a football player. Just get him on campus and keep him on campus. It's as simple as that. Brady, about a minute. What happens tomorrow? Need your prediction. Does Nebraska make folks reach for the hard stuff, or is it the easy stuff tomorrow night?
Man, well, there's no two ways around it. If this is a bitter pill to swallow tomorrow, it's going to be a long season because Northern Illinois their work to date hasn't been all that impressive. They got to win, but Boston College might be the worst team in Power 5 football this year, folks. So it's a tall order, but also I think this is another one. If you want excitement, Tony White's defense, those guys playing in front of a home crowd, they're tied for the lead in the country in sacks. They're going to smell blood against a weakened offense. I think there could potentially be some fireworks on that side of the ball. And folks, it wouldn't be the first time that a Nebraska defense has made plays and touchdowns and turnovers to make up for a lackluster offense. No offense to Zach Lee if you're listening. No offense at all.
Second Zach Lee reference today. 09. I love it. Brady will check in soon. Thanks for the time. At Brady Oltmans. Find him on Twitter. Have a good weekend. We'll tip one here soon.
Appreciate you guys.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Friday edition, Hail Varsity Radio. YouTube channel, Hail Varsity. Check that out. You want to watch the show or follow us on Twitter at HVarsity Radio, at Elijah Herbel I make that at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. Connor Clark's Twitter at C_Clark_27, at Schmidt_radio. Todd chimes in. My gut says 24-20 Huskies. Too many times teams like this come in and make us look dumb. The list is endless. So Todd chimes in. Todd, good to hear your input. Nebraska fans right now either nodding sadly or shaking their head vigorously. Let's get into it. Friday forecast time. And we welcome in the imaginary, always wearing red, the infamous Clauseborne, to do Friday forecast. Claus, how's your week?
Maybe.
Let's do the top row here. How's that sound? Let's do the top row. Claus, we'll try it again. Take two. How are you?
Well, I thought maybe I already said something. I saw one of the games on the list was Penn State, and I know you've got to be quick on the dump button, but I hadn't even gone into that game yet, so...
We'll get there.
Claus, we are going to get there. You doing okay from Boulder, bud?
Well, as you know, drinking is not something I really normally partake in, and I found out that one of those cans with the Blue Mountains at altitude was just enough to get me over everything after the 4-minute mark in the second quarter, so I'm doing okay.
There he is. Clauseborne's with us, and forecast time. So we're going to dive in here, if I can find them. Here we go. Minnesota, North Carolina, -7.5 Tar Heels. Minnesota's going to ugly this thing up. Minnesota's going to cover. Carolina's going to win. And I think Minnesota's going to keep it fairly low scoring. We'll say 24-20. Carolina wins. Gophers cover. Elijah.
Yeah, I am high on this Minnesota secondary. Maybe Jeff Sims is just that bad, but I think there's some talent in that Minnesota secondary. But I also think Drake May is getting his flowers for a reason as an NFL quarterback prospect. He's really good. Give me North Carolina to win and cover, but barely, 28-20.
Okay. What do you say, Connor?
Yeah, I think I like that too. I'm going to take UNC by 10 here. I think that Minnesota will ugly up the game, but at the end of the day, I think you're going to look at probably 34-24 type game.
Okay. A lot of points for the Gophers, but whatever. Claus, what do you say here? Minnesota or Carolina?
Well, first of all, speaking of North Carolina, I think we can all agree that the NC2A's ruling on that transfer player they had was absolutely ridiculous. And I bet Mac Brown wishes he could give them 1 extra second that he didn't earn to think about it.
Well done. Well played.
But that won't happen.
That coming.
They will win the ball game, however, 24 and Minnesota 17.
Off to the mountains we go. Colorado State, Colorado. The Buffs have new shades thanks to Coach Prime. Jay Norvell's still a beauty. I like Colorado to win. I like Colorado State to cover. Give me the Buffs 31-17. 31-17. Buffs stay unbeaten over the Rams. Elijah.
Yeah, I think Nebraska put some stuff on film that Colorado State can use this week on the defensive side of the ball, try to slow down Colorado's offense. I don't think it matters. I think the Buffs roll. Give me Colorado 45 and give me Colorado State 17.
All right.
I kind of agree with Elijah here. I think Colorado's going to hit their stride. It's another kind of rivalry game for them as well. I'm going to go Colorado 42, Colorado State 14.
All right. Claus, what happens here? Buffs or Rams?
Well, I'm conflicted on this one. On one hand, I agree with Jay Norvell. If you'll remember, Christopher, back in 1995, I'm pretty sure Bruce Snyder didn't take his sunglasses off when he had some choice words for me after Matt Turman threw a 70-some-yard touchdown when we were already up 70. But on the other hand, Jay is probably lucky that Dion doesn't take off his shoes and make him look at that. So,
oh, my God.
No. Wow.
Oh, no.
We went there.
I'm going to take Colorado in this one, 35, and Colorado State, 17.
Wow. That's so wrong. Tennessee is at Florida, -6.5, Rocky Top. Florida's got to have this. Their coach has got to have this. They won't. Tennessee will win. Gators will probably cover. This thing's going to be a tight ball game, but Tennessee just a little too much. Give me Florida barely covering, but 27-21. That half, that hook, the difference. Give me Tennessee.
Yeah, I think the Swamp's a tough place to go play. I think Tennessee is the more talented team here. I love what Joe Milton's been at quarterback. I wasn't sold on him before the season. I've liked what I've seen thus far. Florida had a get-right game last week against, it starts with an M. Doesn't matter. Directional school. I don't think it's enough. I think Tennessee wins. I think Florida covers. It's a 31-28 victory for Tennessee on Saturday.
Connor.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. I'm going to go.
State. There it is.
I'll go with the Florida cover, but I'll go Tennessee's going to win 27-24.
And if they don't, if they get just blown out, the Dion to Gainesville chance will louden.
Yes.
Claus, what happens here? Tennessee, Florida.
Well, I think this matchup is just proof that you never really know what you're going to get from a coach until their teams hit the field. You know, on paper, Billy Napier looked like he'd probably be fairly successful at Florida, and Josh Heupel looked like he'd probably be fairly successful managing an Arby's in Bismarck, North Dakota. But I think in this case, Tennessee is going to be the winning team. I'll take the Volunteers 31 and the Gators 17.
Friday forecast, Clauseborne with us here. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Penn State -14.5. Illinois got smoked by Kansas. I think Penn State's lined up and ready to do it again. I think Penn State wins this and kind of blows it open in the fourth quarter. 38-17, the win and cover for the Nittany Lions. What do you think, Elijah?
I'll get out of the way for Claus. I'll make it quick. I think Penn State's the best team in the Big Ten as it currently stands. I think they dominate Illinois 31-7.
Connor.
Yeah, I think I got a Penn State cover here, too. I'm going to go 37-20, Nittany Lions.
Claus, what happens here, Penn State or Illinois?
Well, first of all, did you fellas see that 8-person portalet that was all over the internet that they were bragging about they have out there in Happy Valley?
No.
I didn't.
You guys really need to get the internet down there at your studios because I really cannot say the name of what they're calling it on account of this program. As I understand, it's still on terrestrial radio.
It is.
But for those of you who are not living under a rock, I always thought that the name that they gave that particular portalet was what they called the locker room inside the Latch Center.
Wow.
Either way, Penn State is going to win this one going away. I really don't think Bert has much of a chance in this one. Penn State 38 and Illinois 17.
Stay tuned. We will have our Nebraska prediction with the Friday forecast. Clauseborne, are you good for a couple of minutes?
Oh, I suppose.
All right. Claus going to hang in there as we'll wind down a Friday. Don't forget Single Barrel, where we're at tomorrow for the weekend edition pregame show, 3 to 5, Single Barrel, 9th and P inside the Graduate. Nebraska predictions next with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio Friday edition. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Podcast, get them. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, always a favorite. Clauseborne with the Friday forecast as we will wind down the picks and gear up for Nebraska-Northern Illinois. Claus, thanks for staying tuned with us.
Well, I figure I got nothing better to do, and neither do you, so might as well stick around.
I think Nebraska gets right. I think you see some good things from Harburg. I think most importantly, you see the offensive line by game 3 do something they haven't done in a long time, and that's finish, deliver. 21-9, but a cover by Nebraska barely. 11.5 is the number we're going with. 21-9, I'll take the Big Red barely. Elijah.
I have the Huskers winning and covering here. I don't think Northern Illinois' offense gets much of anything going against this first-team Husker defense. I'm not going to say Nebraska's defense pitches a shutout. It's been a while. I think you have to go back to pre-Big Ten days since Nebraska's defense pitched a shutout. So I'm not going to go that far. I think Nebraska gets a touchdown a quarter. It's a 28-6 victory for the Huskers tomorrow night.
Well, this is tough, but I'm going to go Nebraska 23 and Northern Illinois 14.
Okay.
I think the Huskies barely get the small cover, but Nebraska wins outright.
Claus, how you feeling?
Well, Christopher, as you know, I've publicly stated many times that I try not to get involved or talk too publicly about what the new football coach is doing down there. I really don't think it's my place, but I want to speak directly to Coach Rule right now. Matthew, if I could give you one piece of advice, if you're still taking the team to a Friday night movie like we've done for many, many years, do not let the quarterback order anything but Raisinets or nachos or a big dill pickle. If he gets anywhere near that buttered popcorn, we're going to have some problems.
Wow. They took the scenic route.
There's one candy in particular that you're going to want to keep away from him just in case he gets inside his head.
Oh, man.
Okay?
What candy would that be?
Well, I don't even want to say it now because I'm sure he's listening. What else is he going to be doing on a Friday ahead of his home opener besides listening to you bozos? So I'm going to keep it to myself, but it's made by Nestle. My point is this. So long as we can control the football, I think there's really nothing Northern Illinois is going to have for us. And so I'm going to take Nebraska 35 and Northern Illinois 17.
All right, 35-17, a feel-good for the Big Red. Claus will get ready for Louisiana Tech next week. Thanks for giving us some time tonight.
Okay.
There he goes, Clauseborne, off to the Well, after the weekend for him, we'll see you tomorrow down at the Single Barrel, 9th and P inside the Graduate. You want steaks? You want chops? You want whiskey? Do you need whiskey? 200 to choose from. We love them down there and excited to be set up. 3 to 5 tomorrow, weekend edition road show. Connor, behave yourself. You need bail money, you call me later.
Will do.
Elijah?
If I need bail money, don't call you?
No, I'm saying...
You're on your own.
You're on your own.
Trust me more.
I trust you more. You're of sound mind, right? Podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Talk tomorrow at 3 with Hail Varsity. Take care.